Semen retention comes with a few disclaimers, which is very important that I outline right now before you start retaining for long periods, because this will happen. Be prepared to stand out in front of a crowd of people. And this is not like a bad way, like people are not gonna hate you or whatever. I mean, some people might sort of look at you, and be like a bit jealous of you and everything. But like I noticed on semen retention is that a lot of people will sort of like just look at you. And they won't do anything. They won't say hi or whatever. They might just smile or whatever, or they might come, they might come talk to you. Like, I don't know. But I notice with me mainly, like when I'm in the gym, especially, which I'm about to go into now, a lot of people would just like look at me, maybe because I've got this more increased level of confidence. I feel more confident in my own skin. Because I know people say like, oh, girls can smell the retention and everything, and then I make videos saying a similar thing, but it's more to do with like your pheromones, how you carry yourself. But I just think in general, just semen retention, regardless of how it works, right, or what it is, right, let me do all the research and all that stuff, and you just don't have to worry about all the scientific shit, okay? But semen retention will get you a lot more attention. So you have to be prepared to accept that, you're going to be looked at more, right? And you're probably thinking, well, I don't want that. I don't want more people to look at me. That means they'll judge me and everything. Well, you're currently in an insecure place. You're coming from an insecure place of where, like, it's weakness, where you don't want people looking at you because you feel ashamed of who you are. But the longer you retain, the more confident you become on semen retention. So it's almost like, it's not like you want people to look at you, but it's like you're more comfortable with people looking at you, and you quite like the attention that you get. Like, I'll be honest, right? I was never someone who wanted like the spotlight all on me. I didn't mind if it was on me because I did a lot of things that exposed me early stages to things like public speaking and performing on stages, because I used to be part of a band. I did my own solo performing when I was doing like live electronic music. So kind of like DJing, but that actually takes skill, because I was doing it for university. Rip to all those DJs out there. But like honestly, I've exposed myself a lot in these kinds of environments before. But I still would feel really, really anxious if I went to a gym, but more confident at like performing in a gig, which is really weird, right? I would get more anxious about attending a gig or like some kind of concert than actually like performing in one, because for me, like I wasn't retaining that at that point. When I was in university and college, I wasn't retaining at all. I was releasing at least once a week. And now that I've like drastically cut back on the amount of times I relapse, and don't get me wrong, I relapse like once every like other week on average, and I'm slowly decreasing that frequency, which I feel like is a good way of thinking of it. And whether it's guys or girls, I will just catch people sort of like, not like checking me out in terms of like they're really thirsty for me, right? Like I'm not like that sort of like advanced in this. I'm not that attractive, but I feel like semen retention has brought a massive amount of like calmness to me and sort of like comfort in my own skin, to where like I don't care so much if people notice I'm there, and if anything I do see it as like a subconscious compliment, right? And that's just something you've got to prepare yourself for, is that you will get these kind of like loads of like subconscious signs or signals, and people kind of look at you more, and it kind of is a bit weird really at first, because it's like, what the fuck, they're looking at me, right? But then you also got to realize that a lot of the people, they don't feel comfortable in their own skin, so they're going to look towards other people and look for validation. They're gonna they're gonna look, see, oh, is this person looking at me? And they're looking around anxiously because they're the person who's insecure and not feeling comfortable in their own body, right? And I know what that feels like, right? I've lived that for most of my life, almost all my life now, or at least since I've hit puberty, because as a kid you kind of just do whatever, and you don't really fear much judgment. You don't get embarrassed as many times because you don't really know what that's like. You have like no shame for doing anything, and like it almost feels like I'm returning to like that kid part of me, which is like I don't feel like no shame for doing things that I know I shouldn't do. But I know for someone who's like, quitting porn and everything like that, once you've got the porn addiction, it is so hard to not feel guilty, shameful, embarrassed when you go in public. Even if you think, well, I'm not actually like, doing it in public, God forbid. But it's like, it doesn't matter, because you're still sort of like subconsciously thinking, oh, I hope that person doesn't find out I watch porn. I hope that person doesn't find out this thing about me, right? And you have to realize that that's literally going to be your default way of thinking, whether you like it or not, when you're addicted to porn, when you're constantly like edging or whatever. And look, whether you're addicted to porn or you just addicted just to like the edging factor, wherever, all of it's unhealthy. You need to stop all of it. I don't care, like just one peak turns into a fucking relapse, okay? Just one peak turns into like a binge-a-thon of like, a porn-a-thon of just watching loads. And look, I've done it all, right? I've done it like, I've paid OnlyFans models. Like it's terrible, honestly. I know that, but like I have like enough vulnerability and enough balls to kind of admit that I've done that. And I know that like most other guys have done some version of that. Maybe they haven't paid forever, and luckily I haven't done like, like live cams or all that shit. Like that's sort of weird shit, right? That's like the really extreme part I'm glad I haven't done before, and I'll never do. So getting this addiction under control, knowing that I'm gonna get like this extra attention, I quite like sort of look forward to it. But it's very easy to start going, and just with any kind of benefits of semen retention, and start to try and predict or expect the benefits. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to go out, and this is like a second disclaimer, I guess you could say, is like, when you start semen retention, it should just become a part of your life. And, I make all these videos about this, so it's kind of hard not to obsess over it. And I had to take a break from the channel once because I was posting very consistently and everything. I was getting really excited because I was overwhelmed a bit by the benefits of, the placebo effect of semen retention. And sure, maybe a little bit it is. But like, I had to take a step back and take a break because I was getting too obsessed with like trying to predict the next benefit that would come, or like how much more like, fucking driven I would feel to like work on business, how much more energy I would get to, push myself in the gym. Because it does get very easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, I wonder when I'm gonna get female attraction. And a few people in my community as well, like they made posts saying like, oh, when can I start to expect to retain, fucking hell, man, this is horrible. When can I start to like get female attention from retaining with semen retention? And I say, like, don't think about it that way, because first of all, like, it shows you're doing it purely for the female attraction. And I get that, right? Every guy wants to attract, attractive females into life, unless they're gay or bi or whatever. And, this is a problem where you have, as soon as you start to have high expectations for things, or semen retention, or anything for that matter, as soon as you start to have high expectations of like money you want to make online, which is a big one for me, right? As soon as you have those sort of things, and you start to set high sort of like predictions for yourself, it's harder for it to come true. And you have to get to a point in semen retention where you almost like don't fucking care about it, even though like deep down you do, right? But you kind of got to trick your brain and think like, you know what, these are nice added benefits to my life, but fixing my life comes first before anything else. And semen retention, yes, it's the foundations to all that. And what I teach on this channel and in my community is like, you need to get the foundations right first with semen retention, but like having a routine as well that you can, follow at least like 60% of the time. That's got to be paired with semen retention for it to work. You can't just like be waiting hand and foot, but like, oh, is it day 4 now? I should be experiencing this kind of benefits like most people say, but I don't really feel much different. You're going to have a hell of a fucking like hard time with that. Honestly, you're going to really, really struggle with semen retention. And I also notice is that like another disclaimer I will say is that yes, you will get an insane amount of like drive and motivation and fucking horniness, most likely. But you've got to channel that energy elsewhere. You've got to channel that energy elsewhere. And even though motivation is great, and I speak to my therapist about this a lot, about motivation and stress and everything, how to sort of like reduce stress. And I learned something interesting is that like motivation is great when it comes up like almost unexpectedly, or when you wake up with it. It's great, right? Because it didn't cost anything. You didn't have to like hype yourself up for it, really. It didn't require discipline. It's just there, right? And the motivation will just be there when you're on semen retention for ages. But the issue with trying to expect it then is like trying to get motivated for something, trying to get like, you want to get a certain result and you feel like you need a certain amount of energy for it. So what do? You try to sort of like hype yourself up for it. But then, you set yourself really ambitious big goals and you end up just getting stressed about it. And that's something you don't want to do. You don't want to just like, get stressed about things because, you want to sort of like make the most of semen retention. This is something that you just have to sort of like come to terms with the fact that like, let semen retention come to you as opposed to you with the semen retention. There's plenty of benefits that will come in time. Be patient, it will happen. But the best position you can be in is to not expect life-changing results straight away, even though I know it's hard because I make all these videos and they're motivational, everything. The best thing to do is just live your life and have a life outside of just that one obsession of semen retention. I know it can be hard for someone like me who constantly, uploads videos on it, sometimes daily and posting videos. But like, it's not just that about it. It's making money online, which I want to obviously do as well. it's, you know, it's just having this YouTube channel and feel like I'm documenting my journey, my life, because sometimes I go on random tangents about other things, and that's all part of the channel. That's all part of my personality and myself, that, you know, I'm not just here to sort of like document my semen retention transformation. I'm here to actually document parts of my life as well, and, you know, to share my views and my beliefs and everything, and whether you agree with them or not is another thing. You know, but like, this is what I'm here to do. And semen retention, yes, it is an amazing thing, but the disclaimers I've given you in this video should be enough for you to realize already that, like, you know, just be prepared. You're going to get a lot more attention on you're going to get a lot more attention on semen retention. I can't fucking remember the other ones now. Stop having high expectations for semen retention, because you'll start waiting hand and foot and start, you know, putting semen retention on a pedestal, and that won't be fun for you. And then the last thing, I can't remember what it was, but I'll end the video there. Thank you all for watching. Have a good one, and as always, remember why you're doing this.